My husband stole our daughter's college fund to spoil his mistress, and the truth came out in the most humiliating way possible. And it was our 12-year-old daughter who exposed him. Stay with me as I open up about this painful chapter of my life. And if my story moves you, I'd truly appreciate it if you could show some love by subscribing, liking, and sharing with the people you care about. My name is Nova. I'm 38 years old, and I've worked as a nurse for most of my adult life. My husband, John, is 2 years older than me. To the outside world, he was everything a woman could hope for. A businessman who wore confidence like a tailored suit. People saw him as a steady provider, a family man. For years, I believed that image too. We had a daughter, Lily, who is 12. She's bright, curious, and has always been protective of me, even when she was just a little girl. Together, John and I built a life. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable. Every extra dollar we managed to save went into one special account, Lily's college fund. That account meant everything to me. I grew up in a family where education was a dream, not a guarantee, and I swore my daughter would never face the same struggle. John used to talk proudly about it too, saying, "We're setting her up for a future without limits." I clung to those words. For years, I thought our marriage was steady, even solid. But sometimes when you're too busy believing in someone, you miss the cracks forming beneath your feet. John started pulling away little by little. At first, I thought it was stress from work, late nights, business calls, endless excuses about deals that needed his attention. I wanted to be supportive, so I didn't press too hard. But over time, something in him shifted. He became colder with me, less patient with Lily. Family dinners turned into quick meals in silence, and his phone became an extra limb he never let out of his hand. If I asked a question, his answers were short and sharp, like I was intruding. The distance grew until I started doubting myself. Was I imagining it? Was I being unfair to a man who worked so hard for us? I would lie awake at night, replaying his dismissive tone, the way his eyes slid past me like I wasn't even there. And then there were the moments with Lily. She'd climb onto his lap, excited to show him her drawings or tell him about her school day. But instead of smiling like he used to, he would brush her off with an irritated sigh. I saw the way her face fell each time, and it broke me. That little girl loved her father more than anything, and he couldn't even give her 5 minutes. Something inside me whispered that this wasn't just stress or bad days. It was more, much more. And deep down, I was terrified that I already knew what the truth might be. It started slowly, almost in ways that could have been ignored if I had wanted to convince myself nothing was wrong. John began coming home later than usual. At first, he blamed it on traffic or last-minute meetings. I wanted to believe him, so I did. But as the days turned into weeks, his excuses grew thinner, and his absences longer. He had always been a man attached to his phone for work, but this time it was different. He kept it with him everywhere, even into the bathroom. If it buzzed on the table, he would snatch it up so fast it startled me. Once, when I casually asked who was texting, he looked at me sharply, as if I had crossed a line. He muttered something about business partners and walked away. That sharpness lingered in my chest long after he left the room. The money was the next thing I noticed. John had always been the one to handle the bigger bills, but we made decisions together when it came to our savings. Lately, though, he became defensive whenever I asked about the accounts. "Don't worry about money, Nova," he'd say with that dismissive wave of his hand. "I've got everything under control." But the way he said it made me feel like a child being scolded for asking too many questions. I tried to push the unease aside, telling myself maybe he just didn't want me stressed. But then little things began to add up. New clothes I hadn't seen him buy, dinners with clients that he never mentioned before, unexplained charges on the credit card. When I asked him once about a fancy restaurant bill, he brushed me off, saying it was business-related. Yet something in my gut twisted tighter every time. Lily started noticing too. She had always been a daddy's girl, but lately she couldn't get more than a few minutes of his attention. She would beg him to watch a movie with us, or ask him to come to her school recital. He'd either claim he was too tired or say he had important work. When she pushed, he snapped at her, irritation flashing across his face like she was bothering him. I saw her little shoulders slump as she walked away, pretending it didn't hurt. But I knew it did. One night, we sat down for what was supposed to be family dinner. Lily had been excited all day. She made a drawing of us three together and placed it by his plate. John arrived late, eyes glued to his phone, and barely looked up to eat. When Lily showed him the drawing, he only gave her a distracted, "That's nice," before leaving the table. She pushed her plate away after that, appetite gone, eyes downcast. I wanted to protect her from the storm I felt coming, but how could I, when I wasn't even sure of the truth myself? I hated myself for even suspecting John. I told myself he was still my husband, the man who promised me forever. But deep inside, that promise was starting to feel like a lie. Something was breaking, and no matter how much I wanted to pretend, I knew betrayal was brewing just beyond the shadows. One evening, after Lily had gone to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop open. It had been gnawing at me for weeks, the unease, the hidden phone, the unexplained bills. My hands trembled as I logged into our joint savings account. This was the account meant for Lily, the one we had promised would never be touched except for her education. When the page loaded, my heart stopped. The balance was wrong. Tens of thousands of dollars were gone. I blinked, refreshed the page, hoping it was a glitch, but the numbers stayed the same. My throat tightened. That money represented years of sacrifice, of skipped vacations, of working extra shifts at the hospital. It was Lily's future, and now most of it had vanished. I sat frozen, staring at the screen until John came home. He strolled into the kitchen like nothing was wrong, loosening his tie, pouring himself a drink. My voice shook when I asked, "John, where's the money from Lily's fund?" He barely looked at me. "What do you mean?" "I just checked the account. It's almost empty." "Where did it go?" My chest ached with panic. He sighed like I was being dramatic. "Nova, calm down. I moved it into another investment account. It's safer there, better returns. Why wouldn't you tell me first?" My voice cracked. "That account is for Lily. We agreed." He cut me off sharply. "I don't have to run every financial decision by you. You wouldn't understand the details anyway. This is why I handle the money." His words sliced through me. I had worked for every dollar we put into that account. Yet here he was, brushing me aside like I was a child meddling in grown-up affairs. "You're making it sound like I'm crazy," I whispered, fighting back tears. John slammed his glass down harder than necessary. "Because you are overreacting. You think I'd do something reckless with our daughter's future? God, Nova, sometimes you drive me insane with this paranoia." I stood there in silence, every instinct screaming that he was lying. His tone, his dismissive smirk, the way he avoided my eyes, it all confirmed what my gut already knew. But he was twisting the moment so carefully, making me question myself, making me wonder if I was the problem. I didn't realize Lily was standing at the top of the stairs, peeking through the banister. She had woken up to our voices. I caught sight of her small figure in the corner of my eye, her face pale and worried. She didn't say anything, but I knew she heard enough. As John stormed out of the kitchen, muttering about me being too dramatic, I looked at Lily's frightened eyes. My heart broke. I wanted to shield her from this ugliness, but I could see the questions already forming in her mind. She was smart, too smart, and I knew she wouldn't let this go. Something inside her was already beginning to piece together the truth I was too afraid to face. It happened on a Sunday morning, the kind of morning that should have been simple: coffee, pancakes, Lily watching cartoons in the living room. John had left his phone on the counter while he went to shower. Normally, that device was glued to his hand, so the sight of it lying unattended was unusual. I wasn't looking for trouble, but when the screen lit up with a message, my eyes couldn't help but land on it. The name that flashed across was Sierra. My stomach sank. I didn't recognize the name, but something about it made my skin prickle. Before I could think twice, I tapped the notification, and the screen opened to a thread of messages that left me numb. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for our trip next month. Did you order the bracelet? The one I showed you? I want it before the weekend. You're spoiling me, baby. I love how you take care of me better than anyone else ever has." My breath caught in my throat. Scrolling further, I saw receipts he had sent her: 5-star hotel bookings, airline tickets, expensive jewelry, and designer bags. And then the worst part, I recognized the amounts. They matched the withdrawals from Lily's college fund. The room spun. It wasn't just that John was cheating. It was that he was funding his double life with the money meant to secure our daughter's future. Every sacrifice, every extra shift, every moment I told Lily, "We can't buy that now because we're saving for college," all of it had been stolen. I dropped the phone back on the counter just as the water in the bathroom shut off. My heart raced, and I forced myself to breathe to look normal. I wanted to scream, to march in there and throw the truth in his face, but I froze. If I confronted him without proof, he would twist it the way he always did. He would call me paranoid again, make me doubt myself until I felt small and foolish. So instead, I swallowed the scream clawing at my throat. I plastered on a calm face when he walked out of the bathroom, towel around his neck, humming like the world was perfectly fine. He smiled at me, that same smile he wore for everyone else, the one that used to make me feel safe. Now it made my skin crawl. All day, I replayed the texts in my mind, the way Sierra's words dripped with entitlement, the way John showered her with things I could never even ask for. My devastation settled into something sharper, something stronger. I knew then that I couldn't just sit back and wait for him to admit the truth. He never would. If I wanted to protect Lily, and myself, I needed undeniable evidence. I needed to be smart, quiet, patient. So while John laughed with friends and played the role of a devoted husband, I began quietly plotting. He thought he was the clever one, But he had no idea that the woman he was betraying was about to become the one who would expose everything. Lily had always been sharper than most kids her age. She didn't miss much, even when I tried to hide things from her. Lately, she had been watching me more closely, her curious eyes following every sigh, every worried glance. One night, as I sat staring blankly at the bills spread across the kitchen table, she quietly pulled out a chair beside me. "Mom," she said softly, "is Dad in trouble? Or are you?" Her question pierced me. I wanted to protect her, to keep the ugliness away from her world, but the worry on her face told me she already knew too much. I forced a weak smile. "Everything's fine, sweetheart. Just grown-up stuff." She shook her head, not convinced. "You don't look fine. And Dad, he's different. He doesn't even look at us the same. I hear you two fighting at night. Please, Mom, don't lie to me." The tears I had been holding back threatened to fall. For a moment, I considered brushing it off again, but Lily deserved the truth, at least part of it. I reached for her hand. "Something isn't right with your dad. He's hiding things. I don't have all the answers yet, but I'm trying to figure it out." Her lips pressed together in determination. "Then let me help." I almost laughed at the idea of a 12-year-old helping with something like this, but there was a fire in her eyes I couldn't dismiss. Lily had always been good with computers, far better than I ever was. She knew how to navigate apps, emails, and even the bank notifications that came to our family account. I never imagined her skills would come to this. Over the next few days, Lily began quietly watching her father. She noticed when his phone buzzed late at night, when he suddenly changed password, and when certain bank alerts popped up on his laptop. She didn't say anything to him, just tucked the information away. One afternoon, while John was in the shower, Lily slipped onto his laptop. She moved quickly, her small fingers flying across the keyboard. Later, she came to me with a folder of screenshots. "Mom," she whispered, handing me her tablet, "you need to see this." I opened the files, and my stomach dropped. There it was, everything I feared. Transfers from our savings into accounts I didn't recognize. Bookings for hotels out of town. Invoices for luxury jewelry and handbags. And all of it linked to a woman named Sierra. The proof was undeniable. My hands shook as I scrolled through the pages, tears blurring my vision. I wanted to collapse, but Lily's steady voice grounded me. "I knew he was lying, Mom. I could feel it. He's not just hurting you, he's hurting me too." I pulled her into my arms, holding her tight as if I could shield her from the betrayal written on those screens. She was just 12, yet she had uncovered what I couldn't. The truth was now in our hands, and there was no way to turn back. I waited until dinner was over, until Lily was upstairs doing her homework, before I decided I couldn't hold it in anymore. The folder of screenshots Lily had gathered was still hidden in my dresser drawer, but the weight of it pressed against my chest. I needed to hear him say something, anything, that could make sense of the betrayal. When John walked into the living room, I stood in his path. My voice trembled, but I forced the words out. "John, I know about Sierra. I know where the money went. I know you've been lying." For a second, he froze, his face blank. Then he let out a sharp laugh, like I'd just told him a bad joke. "Are we really doing this again, Nova? God, you're obsessed. You twist everything into drama." "I'm not twisting anything." My hands shook. "I've seen the transfers, the hotel bookings, the gifts. That was Lily's future. You stole from your own daughter to spoil another woman." His expression darkened. He stepped closer, towering over me, his voice rising. "You're unbelievable. Do you have any idea how ungrateful you sound? I work day and night to provide for this family, and all you do is accuse me. You're paranoid, controlling, never satisfied." The words stung like open-handed slaps. "Ungrateful?" I whispered. "I've stood by you through everything, John. I've worked double shifts, I've sacrificed, and you call me ungrateful while you waste our daughter's future on your mistress?" He rolled his eyes, rage flickering in them. "You know what your problem is? You think men are perfect. Newsflash, Nova, men have needs. You should get over it. It's not like I don't still come home, is it?" For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The casual cruelty in his voice, the way he dismissed our marriage, our child, our years together, it was worse than the lies. He wasn't sorry. He wasn't even trying to hide anymore. "Get over it?" I repeated, my voice breaking. "You've shattered our family, and you think I should just get over it?" A small sound came from the stairs. I turned and saw Lily standing there, frozen, her math book clutched to her chest. Her eyes were wide, filled with tears she was trying to hold back. She had heard everything. "Lily," I whispered, but she shook her head. She wasn't looking at me. Her gaze was locked on her father, the man she had adored her whole life. John noticed her then, and instead of softening, he snarled, "Go back to your room, Lily. This doesn't concern you." But it did. It concerned her more than anyone. She stared at him, trembling, and I could see the moment her heart cracked. The father she thought was her hero had just shown her who he really was. I wanted to shield her, to erase what she had just witnessed, but it was too late. The breaking point had come, and none of us would ever be the same again. The house felt heavier after that night. Lily barely spoke to her father, and when she did, it was short and cold. I could see the pain in her eyes, the way she carried herself differently, like a piece of her childhood had been stolen. I felt broken too, but I refused to let John destroy what we had left. He had taken our trust, our peace, and our daughter's future, but he wasn't going to walk away without consequences. One evening, as we sat at the kitchen table, Lily broke the silence. "Mom," she said firmly, "we can't let him keep getting away with this. He doesn't even feel guilty." I looked at her, my heart aching at how grown-up she sounded. "I know, sweetheart. But what can we do? He'll just deny it, like always." Her eyes flashed with determination. "That's why we need proof. We already have it. All the emails, the receipts, the transfers. If he won't admit the truth, then we'll make sure everyone else sees it." Her words lit something inside me. I had been too afraid to fight, too afraid of the chaos it might bring. But Lily wasn't afraid. She was angry, and that anger gave her courage. Together, we began to plan. We decided it had to happen in front of people who mattered to him, people whose opinions he cared about. His parents, who still believed he was the perfect son. His close friends, who admired his success. A dinner gathering would be the stage, and the truth would be the spotlight. For the next few days, Lily worked tirelessly. She organized every piece of evidence into a neat folder. Bank transfers showing the missing money, hotel bookings under his name, screenshots of Sierra's demanding texts, receipts for jewelry and handbag. She even added side-by-side comparisons of the withdrawals from the college fund and the luxury purchases that followed. Watching her was bittersweet. She was only 12, yet here she was, preparing to expose her own father. I wanted to cry, but I also felt pride swelling in my chest. My daughter was brave, stronger than I had ever imagined. One night, as she arranged the papers, she looked up at me. "Mom, are you sure you can do this? He's going to get really mad." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "Yes, I'm sure. He can shout, he can lie, but the truth will speak louder. And when it's over, we'll be free." The night of the dinner approached quickly. John thought it was just another family gathering, something to keep up appearances. He had no idea what was waiting for him. As I helped Lily tuck the evidence into a binder, she whispered, "This is for us, Mom. For me. For my future." And in that moment, I knew we weren't just planning revenge. We were reclaiming our power. The dinner table was set like a scene from a picture-perfect family evening. Silverware gleamed under the chandelier. John's parents sat at the head of the table, and a handful of close friends filled the seats along the sides. John, in his neatly pressed shirt, looked every bit the charming husband and doting father. He laughed loudly, pouring wine, making jokes, ensuring that all eyes were on him. To everyone else, he was the man who had it all. But across the table, Nova sat quiet, her face calm, her hands folded in her lap. It wasn't resignation, it was strength contained, waiting. Lily, who had been unusually silent for a 12-year-old, suddenly cleared her throat. The chatter died down as eyes turned toward her. She glanced at her mother, who gave the slightest nod, and then stood with a folder clutched in her hand. "I need to say something," she began, her voice trembling but steadying with each word. John chuckled dismissively, waving a hand. "Sweetheart, this is grown-up talk. Sit down." But Lily didn't sit down. Instead, she opened the folder and pulled out the first set of papers. "These are the bank statements," she said, laying them flat on the table. "This is the money Mom and I saved for my college. It's gone." The room fell silent. John's mother frowned, leaning closer, while one of his friends muttered in confusion. John's smile faltered for the first time. "Lily, stop this nonsense," he snapped. But Lily pressed on. "These are the receipts," she continued, holding up glossy slips from high-end stores. Thousands of dollars spent on jewelry, handbags, dinners, and hotel room. Not for Mom. For someone else. Gasps echoed around the table. A glass clinked against a plate as someone's hand shook. John's father shifted uncomfortably, his face paling. "John, what is she talking about?" John laughed nervously, his voice high-pitched now. "Kids and their imaginations. Nova put her up to this. She's twisting things." But Lily wasn't finished. She pulled out her final weapon, screenshots. Text messages, affectionate words, late-night promises, all addressed to a woman who wasn't Nova. She laid them down one by one, her small hands trembling but determined. "This is the woman Dad's been seeing. He used my future to pay for her life." The silence that followed was crushing. John's friends avoided his gaze, his mother's hand flew to her mouth, and his father's voice broke with disgust. "John, is this true?" John stammered, his charm slipping into desperation. "It's not what it looks like. Men have needs, But no one wanted to hear his excuses. The perfect image he had carefully built for years crumbled in a matter of minutes, undone by the daughter he had underestimated. Through it all, Nova said nothing. She sat tall, her face unreadable, her silence more powerful than any accusation. She didn't need to add words. The truth was laid bare, and her calm composure was louder than John's every excuse. By the time the evening ended, John's reputation was shattered, and Nova's quiet strength had finally spoken louder than his lies. John's face turned red as the last page of evidence landed on the table. His eyes darted around, desperate, searching for someone, anyone, to defend him. "This is nonsense," he shouted, his voice trembling. "Nova, you've poisoned Lily against me. These receipts mean nothing." But no one spoke up for him. His mother, who had always bragged about her son's reputation, covered her mouth in shock. His father, stiff and silent, shook his head as if the weight of shame had finally crushed him. Friends who once admired his charm now stared with open disgust. The room that had been full of polite laughter just an hour ago was now a courtroom, and John was standing alone at the defendant's table. Lily's hands shook as she clutched the folder tighter. "Dad!" Her voice cracked and tears spilled over. "You chose her over me. You took my future and gave it to some woman who doesn't even care about us." She broke then, sobbing into Nova's shoulder, the betrayal cutting too deep for her young heart. John reached out as if to comfort her, but Nova leaned back, her eyes sharp with resolve. "Don't you dare," she said, her voice low but fierce. For the first time, John saw not the quiet, forgiving wife he had dismissed for years, but a woman who had finally drawn her line in stone. And then, as if fate wanted to seal his humiliation, Sierra herself appeared in the doorway. She had followed him there, expecting him to stand tall to shield her. Instead, she found him unraveling in front of everyone. "You told me you'd take care of me," she said coldly, crossing her arms. "But now I see you can't even take care of your own family." Her eyes swept across the evidence Lily had presented. "I'm not sinking with you." With that, she turned and walked away, leaving whispers in her wake. John's protest collapsed into silence. He sat down heavily, his head in his hands, realizing the empire of lies he built had crumbled in a single evening. Nova rose, her hand steady on Lily's back. "This ends tonight," she said firmly, her voice echoing through the stunned silence. "I will not allow you to drag us down any further. Lily deserves better. I deserve better." The following week, Nova filed for divorce. She did it without drama, without cruelty, just with a clear determination that stunned even her lawyer. She would rebuild her life, brick by brick, even if it meant starting from ashes. And above all, she would protect Lily, guarding her future with the fierceness of a mother who had seen betrayal up close and would never allow it to repeat. For John, the fallout was swift. His parents distanced themselves. His friends cut ties. Sierra vanished. And in the hollow silence of his downfall, he was left with nothing but the echo of Lily's words, words that would haunt him far longer than the loss of money or reputation. He had traded love for lust, family for fantasy, and in the end, he lost it all. The weeks after the chaos unfolded were strangely quiet. For the first time in years, Nova's home wasn't filled with tension, excuses, or the gnawing worry of hidden lies. It was just her and Lily, mother and daughter, piecing their lives back together one small victory at a time. They cooked simple dinners, shared laughter over late-night movies, and spent afternoons planning Lily's future the way it should have been, with hope, not uncertainty. Nova often caught herself watching Lily with quiet pride. Her daughter, only 12, had carried herself with a strength that many adults could never muster. When the betrayal came crashing down, it wasn't Nova's anger that had truly broken John. It was Lily's heartbreak. But now, Lily was healing, finding comfort in knowing her voice mattered, her worth undeniable. One evening, Nova sat at the kitchen table, her hands wrapped around a mug of tea, while Lily worked on homework nearby. The silence wasn't heavy anymore, it was warm. Nova finally felt free enough to reflect on everything. John's betrayal had gutted her, yes, but it had also revealed something she had never fully seen before, the resilience inside herself and her daughter. John, meanwhile, had become a ghost of the man he once pretended to be. Stripped of money, reputation, and the family he took for granted, he wandered alone. His parents no longer defended him, his friends kept their distance, and Sierra, the mistress who had once been the object of his lavish spending, disappeared the moment his wallet dried up. He had gambled everything for fleeting pleasure and lost it all. Nova didn't feel joy at his downfall. Instead, she felt a calm, steady detachment. He was the architect of his own ruin, and she refused to let bitterness tether her to him any longer. Her only focus was Lily, her future, her happiness, her growth. One night, Lily climbed into Nova's bed, curling up against her like she used to when she was little. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't care that Dad's gone. I just care that you're here." Nova held her daughter tightly, her heart swelling with a mixture of sorrow and gratitude. "And I'll always be here," she whispered back. "That's one promise that will never be broken." In that moment, Nova realized the true victory wasn't in exposing John's lies or watching his life unravel. It was in building something stronger, something real, with Lily. Betrayal had nearly shattered them, but in the rubble, They had found a foundation no one could destroy. As Nova drifted off to sleep with her daughter safe in her arms, she understood something profound. The sweetest justice wasn't revenge, but resilience. And the greatest treasure wasn't what John had squandered. It was the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. Do you think Nova made the right choice by walking away from John and building a new life with Lily? Or should she have tried to forgive him and rebuild their family? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think. And if you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss the next one.